All right, before I introduce today's guest, I want to give you guys a little bit of context as to why this conversation is so important to me. And that is because over a decade ago, I myself had found myself on a weight loss journey. And overall, I've lost about 110 pounds, kept it off, and I'm still on that last 40 or 50 or so. And it's about the version of me that has become kind of growing in the process. And even now, I'm still evolving, still exploring, and still shedding different layers that were not mine to carry. So, when I came across today's guest, I saw someone who doesn't just talk about the weight, he talks about worth and also talks about everything that a person needs to kind of learn and how much information is actually misinformation, if you will. So, Billy Joe Arthur is the person who has actually lived the journey. Most people are afraid to admit that they're actually still on. And he's gone from carrying invisible weight as a kid to surviving cancer, diabetes, and hitting over 400 pounds to becoming this wonderful man who helps others shift from shame to self-trust and honestly shedding layers of themselves that they have held on to for years. So, with that being said, he has done the work, he's built the mission, and now he's here mentoring people through some hell that he's once crawled out of. And I'm so excited to have him on today's show. So, I want to start off with thanking you for your presence and this conversation we're about to have that's going to completely shift the mindsets of my listeners.
Well, thank you for having me. I feel honored to come and to be of service and hopefully of inspiration.
So, I am just, again, immensely grateful. We had connected over about a month ago now, 2 months ago.
40 something days. Yes. Only know because I was just looking at my own timelines for what we connected over.
And honestly, I've just been in awe of watching you grow, but also being able to hear a part of your journey. And again, we're going to touch a little bit on this conversation. And I'm just so excited because I think this is going to be a game changer. And going down, 1 second. I'm going to pause. All right, so first question I had for you is if we zoom out on your entire story of your hero journey, what would you call your dark cave or your rock bottom moment? And when was it that everything kind of cracked, but your breakthrough hadn't come?
Oh, the darkest day was probably the day I was diagnosed with chemo, or not with chemo, with leukemia, and I was told I would need chemo to get over it. That dark day uh, hit me like a hammer on the head. I literally was on my knees. I didn't know where to turn, what to do, except to follow doctor's orders. And that led me to a chemo hospital. And I didn't know then, but I know now. A minimum requirement in a chemo hospital to be doing the nutrition portion is a PhD in nutrition, which led to the next pivot or dark spot. When I was first put into that hospital, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, insulin dependent level. And yet, the diet they were giving me, given my history as a chef, I knew was detrimental to a diabetic. They took out the diet, out the sugars and gave diet sugars, i.e., take out the sugar, put back the Splenda, the aspartame, whatever. And they did nothing to take out the actual source of major amount of carbs. They gave you all the pasta, all the rice, all the baked potato, all the bread, all the pasta, etc. And those things over time are as detrimental as sugar. As a matter of fact, someone give you as high, like a slice of Wonder Bread will give you the same insulin spike as a similar number of calories in sugar, except the insulin spike lasts longer on the bread.
That's
So I felt very, despite I was in their care, I was very much became an angst and against what modern medicine teaches. I mean, if Randy, if you're in a car wreck, go get patched up. You have a heart attack, go get the emergency surgery. Yes, preserve your life. However, if you have a chronic condition, modern medicine may not be the best place for you to be. They can be a good adjunct. However, long term, you got to take care of your physical health yourself.
100%. I think there's a lot to be said about being the person who advocates for yourself in certain situations when it comes to your health, when it comes to your energy, and just kind of taking ownership of learning these little tips and tricks that we're going to be discussing later on of how you can actually manage the day to day of different factors of your health. And I know that we had been discussing prior that you had said your emotional weight had came first. What would you say was the belief as a kid or an adult that you've now realized was yours to carry, but still shaped how you looked in your physical body?
So when I was a young kid, I was picked on because I wasn't big enough, i.e., I wasn't the buff jock. So I never made the team, or I made second, third string on the team because we were a smaller school. So I still made the team a lot of times. But like picking a gym, I was one of the last kids picked, etc. And I grew up in a dysfunctional home, so I had a lot of beliefs that are, this is going to ring really true for your audience. I'm not enough. I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. All the different ways we can say that. And that led to me overcompensating. And through into high school, into college, I took on even more bad beliefs about myself not being good enough. The only thing I ever took on as a good belief was I knew I could learn fast. And I went to the gym and did everything they told me to do to put on weight, and I worked out immense amounts of hours and went dancing every night or almost every night for 3 to 4 hours. And that gave me ability to burn calories, yes. However, I was also eating the wrong kind of calories because calories were calories back then. We're talking the 80s. And I picked up some really terrible habits that actually became part of my weight gain later. But the real key was that misalignment in my brain of I am worthy, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, I should say. I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not, all of the different forms that can take on. There's everybody, every individual, we're going to recognize it as basically I'm not enough, or I can't, or I don't know, or I'm just not worthy in some way, shape, or form. And that truth helps us, that internalized truth, it ain't a truth, but it's an internalized belief, is a better word than truth, leads us to a place of we take on information that isn't always true and go act on it because our internal system sets us up for failure. I'm not worthy. Let's say that's the internal dialogue. We pick dates with people who are out of our league and are going to tell us no, or are so below us, we're going to say no to them. We're going to see so many red flags. We're going to go, got to kick this one to the curb.
Mm-hmm.
And over and over and over, we're building, stacking belief that we're not worthy of finding a good man or woman in our life. That
100%.
same thing happens with our health. Identical. I'm not worthy of good health. I'm not worthy includes not good health.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, we take on diet myth, half truths or incomplete truths. For example, the whole move more, eat less is an incomplete truth. If you need to take 10 or 15 pounds off after the holidays, you can easily move more and eat less for 1 to 2 months, and the pounds will go away, and your metabolism won't be upset very much. And when you go back to normal eating, you won't gain the weight back. However, if you're obese, you got 40, 50, 100 or more pounds, maybe 200 pounds to go, like I did, those exact same piece of advice, because it's incomplete, leaves you with a lower metabolism about 3 to 6 months out. And that lower metabolism means you are now gaining weight on even less calories. So you cut your calories from 2,000 to 1,500, just to use some round figures. That's a 25% reduction in your calorie intake. But your metabolism will slow 27 to 30% over a 6 month period. So you're actually going to gain weight on 1,500 calories. Then the human psyche kicks in, that I'm not worthy part. I'm not good enough. And when we derail, we beat ourselves up. And then with the I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough stuff. And that leads to binge eating.
Mm-hmm.
And our metabolism takes another 3 to 6 months to catch back up to our going back to our old eating. So we're putting all those pounds back on, plus the binge eating stuff that I ain't had ice cream, cookies, cake, tacos, pizza. Oh my. That revenge eating for a few weeks until the scale goes up so much that we get scared leads us to the actual 5 or 7 or 10 extra pounds we'll have at the end of a 1 year cycle, depending on the individual. And that whole thing adds more weight to the I'm not worthy. All because of one small inconsistency in the what's true for a skinny person is not true for an obese person. They leave that out because the diet industry, the nutrition industry, the gym industry all know that if they get you in and you lose 10 pounds, you'll always rebuy that product again because you're going to blame yourself. They know this. The really big companies know this, maybe not a small little startup, but the really big companies, the big Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig's,
Mhm.
the 24-hour fitness companies, etc., all know this truth. They know that every January 1st, people buy. If they bought Jenny Craig, they may buy Weight Watchers next year and they'll swap back the next year because they lost some on one or the other. And the gym people all know that they'll see a huge surge to where you can't even fit in the parking lot on January 1st. And by February 1st, you can walk in there any time of day almost and go right in, and there's like an infinite number of machines to stand on or use. They know this truth. They just won't tell it to you. I'm here to give you the full, real truth.
Yes. Ironic that you say that because I was actually the person this year who went in. It wasn't January 1st, but it was around there.
Right?
However, I'm still actively going. My times change a little bit, but I still actively go. I think, though, it's funny that you touched on that because so many times we set these New Year's goals, and a lot of times it's regarding the weight that we've maybe gained or allowed ourselves to be a little free-willed with. So I guess my question for you comes up based off of just where you were at. Do you think the trajectory of what belief do you actually need to attain in order to finally make that switch that makes the weight loss everlasting?
No, before we do that, let me be really clear about the gym industry. Nothing wrong with going to the gym. That gives you quality of life, the ability to walk down the beach as far as you want and not worry about anything other than it getting too dark for you to make it back to the car. It's not your physical ability. The ability to move the furniture around in your house when you're 70 years old without calling a handyman. Those are all quality of life things. However, to your point, um, I now forgot your question, needing that clarification.
No
Uh,
worries. The question basically comes down to what belief do you think needs to
oh,
be
the belief
shifted?
shift. The big belief shift is it's got layers to it. So the belief shift, when you first are, I recognize the problem. There's a huge shift in that. I can see, and most of us go into denial there, i.e., well, it's only a few pounds,
Mhm.
which leads to a few more and leads to a few more. Till one day we have a belief shift that I must do something about this. That's a good chunk. However, we don't have complete information. We don't have a complete mind shift. And we go into what I call the I try phase. I'll try, I'll do my best. I'm going to attempt this. I'm going to try that. And we go out and we try this diet product. We try this gym membership. We try this regime. Even my program, if you come in with an I try, it leads to a very good likelihood of some kind of a failure. Now, I've got built-in stuff to work around that. However, even something well designed, well thought out, because I'm not the only person with the solutions I have. I'm sure there are others, and there will be many who take what I teach and take it bigger. The when you have the I will do my best, I'll try, and when it don't work, I'm going to give up. That is setting you into a cycle that'll get you right back to as bad or worse, and then you'll beat yourself up for it. And that really doesn't serve you. How do you get past that? You got to stack on truths and knowledge on top of mind shift phraseology, the I cans, I cantations. We know about those through Tony Robbins and others, great teachers, and continue to modify that and see success stack. Stacking success upon success, i.e., you get a little pounds off, you feel better. Because you feel better, maybe the scale didn't move, but your pants got smaller or your belt got looser, so you have to punch a new hole in it, whatever. Those non scale victories where you just feel better, you have more energy, you sleep better, all those things, stacking them and knowing that they're all progress, even if the scale hasn't moved, leads you to a belief that you can. When you get to I can, you move on eventually to I am healthy state of mind. When you move to I am a healthy human being, I'm a healthy person, I make choices for my health, we give up some of the binge eating, we give up the cycles, we give up believing that this miracle product, take this pill, take this potion, put this patch on, drink this thing, is going to make you get skinny. We give up that. We don't go for the quick fix. We go for long term vibrant health. And we know that the vibrant health and longevity practices over time will give us a side effect of weight loss. And we know we're in for the long haul. The better you feel, the more you do, the more you do, the better you feel. And suddenly you're in a place of I am healthy. And when you get to an I am healthy and I make choices as a healthy human being, that I am becomes healthy, it makes it really hard to go out and binge eat. Yes, you're at a wedding, you're going to eat the cake unless you have like a bad allergy to gluten or something, because it's part of the tradition. And you also know that it's no big deal to eat the cake. You get a real bad craving for a chocolate bar or ice cream sundae or something, book time with your girlfriends or your spouse and go have it as a decadent party and forgive yourself for it because it's within the plan. However, when you don't have a I am healthy person attitude, you go, well, I had the chocolate bar. May as well have the cake, the ice cream, and forget
The
it.
pizza.
A failure. And when you go there, you're perpetuating the cycle. When you make it a I am healthy people still have ice cream. Tony Robbins still has ice cream with his wife Sage because she interrupted the pattern where he was giving his power away to a super restrictive diet. That same thing is true of everybody who's vibrantly healthy. They enjoy life fully. So when they're in Italy and the cannoli is right there, the really decadent good one with a fresh made shell just an hour old, it's truly good. Enjoy the heck out of it. You just don't enjoy 10 of them a day because you're a healthy person. You enjoy one really good decadent one from the place that all the locals talk about. That's healthy. And when you make that shift to I am healthy, you can't do it with just talking to yourself. You got to get in, do the right work with the right guide, a mentor, a coach, whatever you want to call it, who's got correct information, who can help you with the mind shift, the knowledge, so that you're not setting yourself up into a diet myth or something that's going to long term create a crash in your metabolism and etc. So that you can actually have results that stack. Because the stacking of the results on top of some just positive mind frames work eventually becomes an I am healthy mindset. And that basically excludes debauchery other than scheduled, i.e., you know that it's date night on Friday night and you're going to have ice cream with your husband. That's fabulous because you're going to split one Sunday, not have one each. You're not going to eat it out of guilt. You're going to eat it out of celebration of your love for each other, etc. And that means the other side of the healthy mindset is a healthy person knows they ate the Sunday on Friday night with their date with their husband or their spouse, their man, their woman. When they get to Sunday and Monday, they've actually already trimmed out 200 calories subconsciously for the 200 calories of the ice cream they had on Friday night. It balances. Average human being eats the same number of calories month after month after month after month until they attempt a diet. Then they go back to that when they come off of the diet. So, and on a year basis, it's incredibly close. We're talking less than 0.1% change in a person's caloric intake year to year, unless they've been on a long-term calorie restriction diet of some kind, which we now know creates metabolic slowing and long-term weight gain. The best proof of that is gastric bypass surgery has a 90 something percent failure rate 10 plus years out. Those people go on to 1,200 or even in some cases 800 calorie diets, almost half of what the average human being eats. And yet they still gain all the weight back. Really sad. But that industry preys on the desperate. And they're not the only industry. They're maybe the most egregious, in my opinion, because what they do to someone's not unreversible. It's not reversible. You can't undo it.
Hmm.
If you go on a bad diet, I can easily coach you past it. Matter of fact, one of my people had gastric bypass. She lost all the weight, gained it back, and is now down 83 or 4 pounds. So I know there's possibilities to work around it. Her and I have had to do some extra work. However, I know it's possible. However, she'll never be able to undo what they did to her stomach. So she's got to take supplements for her proper nutrition, etc.
That is an interesting point that you bring up because I think the diet industry as a culture, and I think having been someone who was, and I don't consider myself fit just yet. I have healthier habits than I did when I was younger, but I've always leaned more on the heavier side of my frame. And as someone who's been through that cycle year over year, I've tried the Jenny Craigs, I've tried the random weight loss clinics that used to give you like a B12 shot to help you metabolize. So I've tried all these different methods, and I do know that at one point I was heavily considering those routes. And I realized as I started talking to doctors, and I got lucky and had honest doctors where it was the truth of the matter that comes with it is if you don't change your habits, does not matter if you do a procedure, you are still going to find yourself struggling with your weight.
This is true. And what's worse is a lot of the the doctor industry has 2 semesters maximum of actual nutritional training. Now, if they're in bariatric surgery, they may go do continuing ed and have more information. However, they're basing it on a lot of stuff that's not actually true. That even nutritionists, PhD nutritionists, as I pointed out early on, don't get things completely correct because they don't have all of the full information. They don't look at the body as a whole like a functional medicine doctor. Majority of what I've studied to get to the knowledge I have, granted it was piecemeal, is functional medicine. A little bit of Ayurvedic and a little bit of Chinese medicine, more as an adjunct to functional medicine, how looking at the body as a whole and how the biology of the human being actually works. Because when you fix that, you fix a whole bunch of stuff. And when you fix those physiological things, you can stack on the psychological to where you're becoming healthier. And so, in the case of gastric bypass surgery, even if the doctor knows some nutrition, he's not well trained in the psychic arts, i.e., how you change your brain. And those people, a lot of times, they go from eating 2 or 3 or 4 big meals a day, because they were overeaters, so to speak, to eating 6, 10, 12 times a day, tiny meals, and the total number of calories may be identical. And they're eating really garbagey food because they're not getting proper education. They're buying stuff that comes in boxes, bags, and cans. If we walk down the healthy foods aisle in any major grocery store or any like Whole Foods, where they have the healthy foods aisle, there's lots of bags, boxes, and cans that are highly processed, highly refined products.
Mm.
They may be organic sugar, but it's still sugar, right? And not that sugar is a big bad thing. It's just it's been put in everything because sugar is 8 times more addictive than heroin or cocaine. So we're eating more sugar ever than ever. It used to be in the 1800s, we ate about 1.5 pounds of sugar a person. Today, we eat over 50 pounds per person
And that's yearly.
on a yearly consumption.
Crazy.
That's an insane amount of sugar compared to what we used to eat. Yet, with proper education, I don't say we're ever going to go back to 1.5 pounds of sugar a year. However, we can become much better and make sure that we're doing it in a manner that's coming in timing wise so our body metabolizes it properly and we can allow it to just flow through us.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna take my listeners back on the journey for a moment. And I wanted to touch on when you were lying in your hospital bed, sick with leukemia and your type 2 diabetes, what was the decision that you made in that moment that you would say still impacts every choice you now make today?
I went, first off, I became disenamored with modern nutrition because I was watching this PhD level nutritionist feed heart patients and diabetic patients, and those two diets are very, very similar in the hospital. Incorrect foods, stuff that was actually detrimental to them. And on the cancer ward, they had an endless supply of popsicles and ice cream and cookies for cancer patients, and simple carbs feed cancer. Well known, very well documented. So in that moment, I went first to the computer and I Googled, why me? How does this happen? And being a smart rat, I couldn't find an answer for why leukemia, what caused it, at least back then. We're talking that was 15-ish years ago. However, I started coming across stuff for how to get past the effects of the chemo, how to fix my type 2 diabetes, and et cetera. And it all boiled down to it came from functional medicine. And I dove in really, really deep. Right here, there's a line of about 40 DVDs. Most of those they're all from that phase. Most of them are on how to get past cancer or how to fix something about being obese. Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead is in there. Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead 2. Forks Over Knives. I think there's a Forks Over Knives 2, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of wisdom in those. Not 100% true in any of them. However, the more I learned, the more I was able to discern the truth. And then I got into studying the stuff that's on the internet that's actually got good truth in it. And discerning, the more I learned, the better I could discern where I was going. So today, the 15-ish thousand hours I've studied, I could do it in probably less than 2,000 hours if I went to reduplicate it because I know how to not go down the rabbit holes of stuff that doesn't matter. And then
Beautiful.
so the pivotal point though was when I said, I will figure it out, I took on a belief. I didn't know I took it on at that time, but I took a determined belief that I will figure it out. I'm going to survive. I'm going to get past this cancer and fix my type 2 diabetes. I was going to survive. That determination got stacked with more and more information, and that more and more information eventually led to an I am healthy belief system. And that final piece didn't happen for over a decade later when I ran into my business mentor, Miss Jenny Hott. And she told me to go start a group for people who are overweight and teach weight loss. Now, granted, I was still 100 pounds overweight. And I said, well, who's going to listen to a guy who's 100 pounds overweight about weight loss? She says, plenty of people who want to lose 110, 120 like you have. I'm like, oh, she says, you only need to be a step or two down the path further to guide someone along a path safely.
Hmm.
So I started that group and I found the final piece of my puzzle that wasn't there. Full accountability group. I formed this free group. In that free group, 100-pound fat loss forum, I enrolled a whole bunch of people I know in it. People, my friends list, basically. A bunch of them went over there, the ones who were interested in health and etc. And I started showing up for them. Didn't know I'd created an accountability group. I just started showing up for them. So I started doing everything I knew, stacked together, and I made that final shift to I am a healthy human being. And I modeled it for others. I continue to do that to this day and teach others how to do it for themselves. That was the huge turning point, though, was that I will make it, I will survive in that cancer hospital. I went diving into that first year, that first 9 months. I probably put in close to 3,000 hours of study time. That's 1.5 time jobs. That'd be like working 60 hours a week. I literally spent that kind of hours, 10 to 12, 14, 16 hours a day on the computer learning because I had nothing to do. I couldn't leave the room except to go walk in the hallway, and my body wouldn't physically go more than half a mile at a time or so. So I had to do something with my time, and I really hated the TV. So that mind shift happened in the hospital, the first phase of it.
Amazing. So basically, you had tried your methods and you realized it wasn't exactly finding the right plan yet. It was starting to become the right person who then figured out the right plan
Yeah, I
based on
had
where you
a
were.
lot of the right pieces, but I wasn't doing them all cohesively together.
Hmm.
So I'd taken control of my insulin levels and my blood sugar levels. And that happened further down the road, but that was the first step. And that actually helped create cycling of my hormones and metabolic optimization and et cetera. And I didn't know what I'd figured out because I wasn't doing it consistently. I was consistently controlling my blood sugar levels, but I wasn't consistently doing the other parts, the good nutrition, the proper thought processes around it, et cetera. And it all it took time to take out the obesogenic, to find out about and take out obesogenic foods, inflammatory foods, processed foods, etc. And the more I took them out, the more I did, the more pieces I put together. And when I made that shift, that accountability group shift, which led to the I am healthy mind frame, that's when it all started to stack together cohesively and became an integrated plan, which I now teach to my people.
Amazing. So, just because this is a lot about transformation, but I use mindset as kind of the basis of my transformation. Usually, most people think mindset translates into motivation. But what would you say is the actual inner work behind not just changing your body, but becoming the person who doesn't sabotage it afterwards?
So when you start the mindset shift, we'll stick with the I am healthy one. It works the same for I am wealthy. When you say I'm wealthy, you save the first $100, that may be true, but then you find something you want and you spend it, and you no longer have it. That's no longer true. You get their first thousand, first 10,000, first 100,000. You're never wealthy on any of those numbers. They feel wealthy if you've been broke before, yes. However, you're not wealthy until you take on, how do I invest this? How do I make this grow on its own? So in our mindset for health, we're stacking wins to where you finally go into I am healthy. And the stacking of them happens from the very beginning when you first say, I'm going to do what it takes. That's a kind of a willpower place. However, when you're in that place, you start to filter for truth over hype.
Hmm.
You don't buy the marketing hype. Take this, you'll get skinny in 3 weeks. You got 200 pounds to lose, baby. It ain't happening in 3 weeks. It
Hmm.
just ain't. Your liposuction won't even get rid of all that. It'll get rid of a lot of it, but it ain't going to take out the inner organ fat, etc. There's really truly the dangerous fat. Love handles don't look good in the mirror, but they don't kill you. So back to your mindset stuff. You stack the wins. The wins look like you lost 5 pounds. You feel better. You have more energy. You're sleeping better. And you learn a few more things and you keep stacking those things together. And when you combine correct information with a filter for correct information so that you in your heart, in your soul know that what you're learning is true. Like for me, when I'm teaching people, I don't teach them what to do. I teach them why. What's really behind that, how that's affecting their internal chemistry and their metabolism without going into all of the different biological stuff real deep, just that this is what it's doing for you. So that you have buy-in on it, so you stack it as part of your identity, and that helps you build forward into I am healthy. The same as if we were talking wealth. You get with a good banker, he'll tell you how to put away the wealth. But a banker don't know much about investment.
Hmm.
Eventually you have enough money though to be doing investment, and you've in that process of working with a good banker and saving that first 10 grand where you can make your first investments, you find an investment person, somebody who's done it, someone you trust. Then you stack that. Eventually, one day, you're buying multifamily housing with 10 other people. Yeah, you can't afford 100-unit apartment complex on your own, but you have a million and you put 10 of you together with a million plus a piece, you can afford the 10, $20 million down payment on it. And the bank will finance the rest because you've got 20% of that 200 million. Now it's all, or maybe I don't have the right numbers there, but you get my point. Now you're on real wealth
Hmm.
and you're doing it as a team. So that's one of the things I set up in my overall health thing is I have a group, a private group for the people who are in to share vulnerably with each other, to talk about their wins and their setbacks so that they can actually support each other in seeing the truth so they can move forward. So some of it's about who you surround yourself with also.
Absolutely. I think that if you don't have people, at least what I found in my own personal journey is if you don't have people who at least understand the journey you're on, much less if they're not walking the same path, it becomes very difficult for you to create that identity shift and maintain it while on that journey, especially if you're starting off, maybe you've already tried. Again, going back to what you were saying about the word try, especially if you've already tried other things if you don't have people who are either going to support you or are going to understand where your mindset is coming from, it is very difficult to maintain it at a long-term level.
Yeah,
Personally, I know that when I was on my fitness journeys, I would have to literally kind of pre-warn people that I would surround myself with. So what I meant by that is, say I was going to my grandparents' house, hey, I'm not going to be eating the cookies and the cakes, and maybe I will not be touching the bread. Apologies, it's not that I'm disrespecting our culture, I'm not disrespecting our food, and I know that the because my grandma, she was always the person who made food home. It was everything was always homemade, minus the occasional bread that she would buy from the supermarket. But even our Middle Eastern breads are a little bit less processed than the typical Americanized bread. But I
right.
would have to kind of pre-frame her for this so that when I'm going home to eat a dinner with my family, it's not offensive for me to be in the state of, hey, I'm not doing it because it's not aligned in this moment. And I would have to kind of also get her to relieve a little bit of the temptation because rather than her coming and offering it to me, she already had the outright mentality of, I'm not even gonna bother asking her, hey, do you want a piece of bread? She
So
might
you
have it on
did
the table, but it's not
you,
directly asked to me.
you did a genius thing there, a genius level thing. You preempted the, oh, come on, Anita, have some. It's part of the family. Come on, have some. By actually educating her, your grandma, up front, that what you're doing is for your health. No offense to the family, no offense to her good cooking. You really do miss it and you really wish you could have it. However, you're on this temporary thing. You'll be having it in a few years again. But for right now, I need to respect my body and etc. You pre-framed up front your desires. Now, sometimes, like in real life, you're going to go to a party or something. There's going to be the hors d'oeuvre guy who's going, oh, come on. It had the calories don't count. It's only 10 calories. It's a tiny bite. Well, 10 of those is 100 calories. He's going to be by with 20 trays. So he's going to give you two, 300 calories. And then there's a full meal afterwards, blah, 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 blah. By two things here, you pre-frame for others as well as yourself. Because you, in that act, you took on an ownership of your own health.
Mhm.
And therefore, even though the bread was on the table, you said, not today, devil, to the bread. You left it sit there. You saw it, you acknowledged it was there, and you know it was going to be tasty because grandma baked it. However, you were also in a place of your own mind frame before you ever walked into that house that I'm doing what I'm doing for my health. I'm not doing it out of restriction. I'm doing it for my long-term health. I know I'll get to enjoy it again another day. I'll get to enjoy it when it's part of my plan. And then you also pre-framed your grandma, and I'm sure it spilled over to the other family members, that the reason you're not eating this is because you're out to do this for your health, and it's a temporary thing until you get your health goal. So with our friends and family, we do need to be careful how we do that because they'll come along with, oh, come on, Anita, enjoy life a little. What's a piece of pizza and a beer gonna hurt, right?
I
Well, it depends
think
on,
personally for me, the take I had to have and the reason I did it is I knew how easy it could be to go down that spiral of, okay, I've had the one piece of bread. Let me stack that with some cheese, or let me stack that with the cookie that's homemade.
right. And next
And
thing you know, you're in the,
it next thing you're now, oh, a whole weekend's gone by, and
in
you're
the what I
rather
call
than
the,
going back to it, whatever plan you're on, the very following meal, you're on this continuous spiral of going down the rabbit hole of let me
yes,
just
very
eat
common.
whatever I can.
Very common, very, very, very common. Because here's the deal. Once you've, quote, derailed, you derailed a train on a downhill track that has momentum. I.e., you've been denying yourself 100% of all the good stuff for so long that when you do have it, and you have it without a plan, you go, well, I had the cake, I had the ice cream, I may as well have the chocolate, the pie, oh, pizza and beer and whatever, tacos. Oh, yeah. Next thing you know, you're completely off the rails. You went back to worse than your old diet because you've had all these things you missed to where you have built up resentment and craving callings, and you attempt to satisfy them all at once because you've been 3 or 6 months without any of it. The way I teach people is you will have you like say this. Let's go back to your family setting.
Hmm.
You go into grandma's, you know she makes that perfect cookie. It's the only place on the planet to get that perfectly great cookie. If you went to grandma's, you say, Grandma, I know I love all your bread, I love all the other stuff you do. However, I'm on this plan, and the one thing I do want is to have one or two of those really great cookies of yours. Because I love you and I know you're cooking the food for love. Now you've built it into your plan. You can have the two cookies guilt free. Walk out of grandma's house. Grandma feels you loved her. You feel you loved yourself because you stuck to your plan 99%. You had only two cookies. And tomorrow, when you go back to real life and you go back to your plan, you go back to it guilt free. You get the craving for a chocolate bar when you're on a solid plan. You buy one, you don't buy a Hershey's bar. You buy a Scharfenberger or a Ghirardelli, a really good decadent chocolate. And you make sure you have one of your girlfriends or your husband or if you're a man, your wife or whatever your choices are that way, those don't matter. You have that person you truly want to spend time with you, and you break it in half. And you have it in little bites instead of wolfing it down. And you fully have a debauchery of enjoyment with that food. Oh yeah. I can feel the chocolate sliding over my tongue. Yeah. And because you have that experience, by the end of it, before you even finish half a chocolate bar, you're kind of over it. Half of that Sunday you split with your husband, whatever that is. By the time you're done with it, you are fully satisfied the craving. You've enjoyed the calories. You've done it guilt free. Tomorrow you go back to the plan. It's no big deal. Matter of fact, as I said earlier, your subconscious will take that 100, 200 extra calories out of your diet over the next 1 to 2 days, and you'll be back on track total calorie wise. And calories aren't the enemy. The stuff that messes up our metabolism is the enemy. So metabolic health is really truly the core principle that I teach. There's a lot of moving parts to get there. However, having the right mindset so you don't derail from it is also critical.
Beautiful. And I just wanted to ask, when did you personally stop chasing that disciplinary lifestyle and really just start kind of living from the identity of I am a healthy person? And what did that first day actually look like when it was
Can't
starting
say
to
there was a
feel
first,
natural versus forced?
I can't say there was a first day. There was a transition to that place.
Hmm.
And I think it happened with, I really think the final movement to where I live a healthy person lifestyle was when I started my program. A year and a half ago, I did a test pilot.
Hmm.
Some ladies and a few men I know. And when I did the test pilot, I had to model 100% everything because they were paying to be in this. And so in that process, I just became fully of the mind frame I'm healthy. And I also took on the knowing that they're going to have derailments. They're going to have these debauchery moments. They're going to want to solve these cravings. So I had already come up with a plan to deal with cravings, the one we've already touched on several times here. By having it as a plan, it's within the scope of the overall program. So you don't get into guilt and beat up. So the mind frame around it is this is a true treat. True treat every day isn't a true treat. True treat once or twice or three times a month with a plan, with celebratory people around you, etc. Even if it's by yourself, you took the dog and had it. Don't share the chocolate with the dog. That's not good for the dog. However, I'm being a little funny here, but if you take that on as a true treat, you're less likely to do it. You're going to do it when it truly does mean something, not just an excuse to have more of something that's isn't good for you, therefore the psychological beat up. So in that frame, there it took some time. There was this doesn't happen overnight. You don't just go, I am healthy and take it on. You have to stack the wins. Some of those wins look like pounds gone. Some of those wins look like buying new clothes. Some of those wins feel like I slept like a baby last night because your metabolism is working properly. You sleep better because your insulin cycles are cycling properly and your body's going into healing mode properly every night. You actually sleep deeper, longer, better. The other side, you won't even notice you do unless you have one of these like Aura rings or you pack your phone 100% everywhere with the health tracker turned on, or you have a Fitbit or an Apple Watch or something like that. All those things, it doesn't matter which one you have. The things that track your fitness, as you start to feel better and do better, you will see your step count goes from 5,000 a day to 8,000 to 10,000. And now I routinely have 10 and 12 and 15,000 step days. And I don't feel like I'm doing anything extra. I just get up and move that much more because my body feels like moving.
Hmm.
Not because I plan it, not because I go for an extra walk every day. I don't set out to get 10,000 steps a day. It just happens. It happens as a natural consequence if I'm actually healthier. They did studies on rats, and obese rats lay around their cage.
Hmm.
Thin rats get up and run on the hamster wheel, rat wheel, whatever you want to call it. We call them a hamster wheel, most of us, a lot. When a rat first comes off of their obesity because they changed something with the rat's diet, etc., they don't do this. They're dealing with a rat that has a very short lifespan, so this doesn't matter too much, and they don't care about the rat anyway. They're just doing experiments. They find that the healthier the rat is, the more it runs. As a natural consequence of vibrant health. We don't maybe go running. Maybe that's one of the things you love to do, so you maybe do run, but not all of us. But we do move more. When we move more, it's not about the calories, it's about the quality of life. You feel better. And that stacks into the psyche. When you feel better, you're going to shift into I am healthy. It all stacks together. It's all there's a lot of moving pieces. It is not super complex. It's easily learned. The biggest thing is to have a good coach or mentor or someone you trust helping you along. And I'm not the only one. I'm not saying you need to buy from me. However, I would love your business. Yet, at the same time, Anita has some great mindset stuff. If that's the only part you're missing, talk to her or other people like that.
So I just wanted to touch on this because you have kind of hit it a couple of points, but most people are chasing their weight loss through solely willpower. And I
Yeah.
noticed you teach the identity aspect of it, the I am healthy. And obviously, as you were just saying, it's a
Oh,
progression, not a instantaneous, I have now encountered I am healthy, so therefore I am. I wish it worked like that. Unfortunately,
okay. So you
loss
touched
is
on
not
something.
like Amazon Prime. It takes some time.
So you touched on something genius level. It's not an instantaneous switch. It's a long-term process. So when we are stacking our wins, we are building psychic energy towards where we want to go.
Hmm.
The more we do it, the easier it becomes. The easier it becomes, the more we'll do it. It's all stacked together. So I'm not sure I want to answer your question. Can you restate it one more time?
We didn't get to the question. So the question is, what was kind of that first moment that you realized you're no longer the person who just needed the discipline? It was kind of already within you, part of your
Uh,
identity
I
to
thought of the
have
answer,
the weight
and
loss.
the real truth is, as you stack the wins and become a person of health,
Hmm.
the first level before I am healthy is I am doing this for my health. All of that, though, the first is willpower. Then you get some results, and that says, oh, it's possible I can be healthy. Even though I'm still overweight, even though I still have these issues going on, the skin rashes or the irritable bowel or whatever those ugly things are, the psoriasis, all of those things, the brain fog, the don't sleep well, all of those things, as they start to clear up a little bit, you start to see possibility. When you start to stack that possibility, you become into a place where you start to pull yourself along. Willpower is pushing yourself. I will not eat any chocolate, cake, ice cream. I'm going to get skinny and fit. I'm acting stupid here, but maybe not stupid, acting extreme here. However, that willpower counts for a time. Average person's willpower lasts 15 to 90 days max. 90 days is super long willpower. Almost none of us make 90 days. Matter of fact, the studies on New Year's resolutions is by the second Friday in January, 14 days into January, 90 some percent of people have walked away from their New Year's resolutions, no matter how heartfelt they were. By the end of January, you can see the result by driving by any gym. The gym that was plumb full on January 1st through the 5th now has almost no cars in the parking lot. The only people left there are the true diehard gym rats. That's because they have an identity of I go to the gym every day. I'm a healthy person. The difference is, though, if you start with willpower and you get a little bit of wins in, that starts to shift your identity. When you start to shift that identity to it's possible, I can, and you'll get a new fire on willpower, like a second wind a little bit. And that gets you through the next 15 to 30 days. And you start to get, oh, it's possible. Beyond I can to it's possible. Eventually, over a few months, a period of time, you start to become, I am doing everything for my health. And then eventually one day you shift into I am healthy. But the real trick of it is those first 30 days or so of where you're pushing through suddenly becomes you're pulling through. You have that draw. I can, it's possible. I see the results. Oh, my belt's loose. Oh, I gotta buy new clothes. The most expensive part of dieting is the new clothes. I'm here to tell you, ladies, I'm a man who likes to go clothes shopping. December and January this year, I spent over 6 grand on new clothes. I went from 3X and 4X shirts, the old me. Let me pop this picture up just while I'm on that topic. This picture is me at about 400 pounds. This shirt, I would have to undo a button for this shirt to fit all that neckline. In that process, though, I became pulled along with possibility. And the more I got pulled along, the more I decided I can. And that I can build to I am. I am healthier, and then it became I am healthy. That pull draws you forward. I mean, I know your audience is primarily ladies. You ladies know that if you drop the hanky, the man will come forward. You got to drop the hint, though. And not all men are good at catching hints, so don't get this wrong. However, if you suddenly start pushing in and you become the leader of the relationship, not that you aren't leading. Yes, all women lead, steer, and end all relationships. However, they do it from a draw, from a pull place, from attraction, not from, look at me, I'm your queen, put me in your life, pick me, pick me. You bring that pick me energy, men run. But if you bring that, I'm a sweetheart. Oh, honey, thank you so much for what you did for me. You're buying onto his psyche that he really wants to be around you because you're pleasant to be with. That's pull energy. We're doing the same thing with our health. The pull energy is, I feel better. When I feel better, I'm going to do more to make myself feel better. And some of that feel better is you're looking in the mirror, you see the pounds go. One of the things I tell everybody, get your fat picture up front. So when you've lost 20 or 30 pounds, you can actually look at it and see there's a difference. Because here's the deal. Despite I'm down 220 something pounds, I look in the mirror first out of the shower early in the morning when my brain ain't on right. I still see a super obese man because I got like 20 pounds left to go. And that 20 pounds looks like 400 pounds. It literally does. To my psyche, when it's not prepared. However, if I pop up that picture I use as my screensaver on Zooms, I 100% know that this neckline ain't that one. There's no denying it. I have physical proof in front of me. Having that physical proof keeps you moving. But the bigger physical proof is in the don't buy a lot of clothes on your in-between sizes. Let me tell you, ladies, don't do that. It's expensive because you're going to rebuy them when you get down to that medium or that size
Is
6 or 4. I don't know women's sizes real good, but I know those are pretty good sizes. When you get down there, that's when you invest. In between, buy some smaller clothes and buy things you can draw the drawstring up on, like your sweats. And if they're two sizes too big, they don't look terrible on you because you're probably not leaving the house in them anyway. The stretchy stuff with the lycra in it, get those, the yoga pants, they will shrink up with you. Now, I don't think they're real flattering when we're overweight. They are functional for going to the yoga studio or whatever, so you feel good. Because the more you stack the feel good, the more that identity comes. The more you feel good, the more it reinforces the identity of I am good for my health. There's a two-way street, but you're really stacking them together. It's a two-part thing. Results beget better results. That's the simple truth. And those results got to come from the psyche, i.e., you feel better. That's the physiological. I mean, and the psyche, I know better. I know that I feel better. That some of that is like no more brain fog. You sleep well. You feel well rested when you get up in the morning, even though it's only 6 hours because the alarm went off because you were up late for something you were excited to build, like your business. That fuels the fire. You can't do that forever. However, suddenly you're getting 6 and 8 hours of good solid sleep, 9 sometimes on a day off, and you feel good about it. You don't beat yourself up for having slept in on your day off because you know you took care of your health. Because taking care of your health is the only wealth you get to enjoy 24/7. You get to enjoy it while you're asleep. You get to enjoy it on into your super senior years. Today, current science says that we should be living to around 120 plus with the best of nutritional information, the best of fitness information, the best of using things like cold therapy and saunas and all that stuff. The next big industry is actually the longevity industry, which I will roll out a product for because most of what I'm teaching to help you lose weight is a longevity practice modified slightly to help you build vibrant health and longevity. And in that process, you have a side effect of weight loss. Once you get to your weight goal, you will have a lifestyle that actually produces longevity where you get to relax the rules a little bit.
I think it's interesting that you touched on a few big points here, but I want to touch personally on the body dysmorphia that kind of happens after you do lose a big amount of weight. I've gotten better about it through the years, but when I first had lost that 50, 80, 100 pounds, I remember I would go into stores and my brain would auto default to the XXL or the triple XL in some cases, just because and I would literally start grabbing it and then I would try to sometimes even try it on and I'd be like, wait, this no longer is a part of that identity. Or sometimes spacing can be an interesting one when you're used to being a little bit bigger and taking up more space. That transition of how much space you might need, I would have moments where it would be like a small pathway would be around and I could totally fit through it, but my brain would default to, oh, you can't go through that. Find the longer way or however what. Just because we get into that, again, it goes back, it gets ingrained into your identity. So for me, it was also an unlearning process. Now I
Yes,
know
true.
not to look for the extra large or the large for every little thing
So
because
some of
of the weight I have transitioned out of.
some of that's just the part of growing through the process.
Hmm. There's
Acknowledging,
discomfort of
here's
it.
the reframe. You walked over to the 2X or 3X rack, the size 12, 16, whatever rack in the store, and you realize you're there because your brain's pretty smart. It's going to realize, oh, these don't fit anymore. Instead of beating yourself up for standing in front of that rack, celebrate. Go, yes, I no longer have to fit in the size 16. I'm an 8. The 8 ain't perfect yet. Don't take this wrong. When I went from 4X, 5X shirts to 3X shirts, I had a celebration though. When they became 2X shirts, it was a celebration. I didn't have many XL shirts because I knew I was going to make it to larges. So very few XL shirts in well, they're no longer in my closet. I have a few 3X shirts around because I wear them sometimes for interviews. I don't have one on right now, or I get up and show you that I have like an 8-inch double over flap, 16 inches of extra fabric in the shirt. Literally, I can do this, and the shirt would be out here at the end of my fist. doubled up fabric that's gone out of a 3X shirt. But I had those celebrations on the way down. And now the you brought up something I didn't even realize it did, except your brilliant question. I celebrated standing in front of the 2X rack. When I'm in the store, I celebrate flipping past the XL rack now for the large only shirts. I'm 6 foot tall, so large is probably about the smallest I'll ever see. As a matter of fact, I'm sure it is because I'll have shoulders that take a large shirt. I may have to have large shirts trimmed one day so that they fit the V shape of my body. I look forward to that day and paying the tailor for it. That's a reframe. I don't fear the tailor. I look forward to it. I know in my near future, this last 20 pounds or so is gone. I'm going to be contacting a bespoke suit builder here in Dallas. There's a guy who makes super fine suits and he does it for a really great price. 100% custom fit, built for Billy Joe suits and a couple of tuxedos. I know that's going to cost me thousands of dollars, more than my entire wardrobe does today. However, I also know I'm going to be buying it with full celebration. I look forward to investing in Billy Joe's phenomenal good looks. So when you go to the store, you find yourself standing in front of the XL or the 2XL line or the carousel of clothes. Celebrate, you get to push them over and go for the larges or the mediums or the smalls. Depends on your stature what that number is. It's just a number. It
Yeah.
really is. And know this about the clothing industry. My mom was a seamstress for 40 some years. They now mislabel their clothes. So what used to be a 14 is now a 10. What used to be a 10 is now a 6. So the numbers really don't matter, is my point. Don't buy into the number, buy into how good you look in it, and know that you are changing that number yourself. You are the solution. You are the person who did the work. Pat yourself on the back. Celebrate it. Because that's part of that identity shift is celebrating the wins. Those wins don't always look like the scale went down 10 pounds.
Mm.
Those wins look like you're buying smaller clothes. You're getting the a hole punched in your belt, so or you're buying a smaller belt. All of that stuff is wins. You no longer crave dessert every night after dinner because you know it's not healthy for you. You know it's not really that big of a deal. Yeah, maybe a piece of fruit after dinner. That becomes your dessert. Half a cup of frozen blueberries. Let's sit on the counter while you're eating dinner. It's now icy cold, sherbet-like burst of berry flavor, whatever berries you like, that doesn't derail your diet because it came in with other food. It doesn't even give you much of an insulin spike. Those are little tricks I teach people. So you can have that finish to your meal without derailing you. Matter of fact, if they're dark berries like blueberries, blackberries, boysenberries, you're actually feeding yourself a full supply of anthocyanins and phytonutrients that are incredibly good for boosting your immunity so you never get sick anymore. Vitamin C, too. A lot of good nutrition in it and good flavor, and it caps your meal in a manner that's celebratory without derailing your diet.
I just want to commend you because this has been so insightful. There's so many good tidbits, and I definitely am so glad that you touched on that pattern interrupt of celebrating the win of the weight loss. Because again, I find that the less you take these moments of celebratory, whether that's, hey, I no longer crave sweets every day, or hey, I've lost 10 pounds. My dresses are fitting. The dress that I have, because ladies, how many of us do this? You buy the dress that's a little too small, knowing that you're eventually going to fit into it. And when that does fit, it's such a rewarding feeling. But I think that a lot of times we tend to brush it over because we see how far we still have to go.
So,
And it's so important to celebrate how far you've already came.
so
And
I have
that's actually,
the other side of the celebration, the stack of the 2X and 3Xs. I took pictures of those and I gave them all to other people. The celebration of taking it out of my house. If I go back a year ago, I have posts of me taking the 3X shirts and putting them in the donation bin, or not in the donation, in a pile on my couch that I'm taking them all to donation. And I took them to the donation center. Some of them I gave to a man who is my former self size wise at work, etc. Because I knew he was a little tied up on money and whatnot. So I gave him some very expensive jackets, like $200 jackets, etc., that would fit him. And he still wears them today. I see him in them all the time. Point is I made a celebration of getting rid of the old stuff and a celebration of buying the new stuff. And I do caution you, as especially I know you ladies love your clothes like I do. Don't buy too much of the ones that are in between. And if you buy the one that's a little too small, use it as fuel to the fire. I am healthy enough to fit in that on my special day that I have planned for it. And that gives you fuel to stick with when it's a little hard. Don't buy a bunch of stuff that's too small. Like I did it a long time ago. I bought a bunch of large shirts because they were on a super sale. They were like 10%, 15%. Not 15% off. We're talking 85% off because the store was closing. I bought a whole bunch of large polos because I loved polos back then. I wound up giving them all away when I was still a 2X because I thought I'd never fit in them. Today I would fit in 100% of them. I'm no longer a polo guy. It's not my style. However, point is, I bought a bunch of clothes that I wound up giving away to charity because they no longer they never fit me because I went too far. However, when you're on the cusp, it's like 5 or 7 more pounds you'll fit in that, and you found that really gorgeous item, that dress that's going to make you look banging hot, that top that you love the colors in. Treat yourself to it, and then hang it in your closet, not this way, this way. Spin the hook on the hanger so it'll hang in the closet, draped over some of your other clothes. So every day you go in there and you see that, and you go, I'm gonna wear you. Yeah, I look forward to the day I get to wear you. I'll look good in you. You see where that energy goes? I got goosebumps on my arms just thinking about that thought that you're finishing the process to be able to fit in that goal shirt, that gold, not for me a dress, but for you a dress. Those those are wins that are stackable ahead of time. It can be fuel to the fire to stick with what you know works. Granted, you have to have the right education and stack it with the certainty of I know I can, which comes to I know I will, not from willpower, but for I know it's possible, which stacks eventually to I am healthy.
Mhm.
And then you start making healthy choices. And
Amazing.
healthy choices lead to more health.
All right, so we're getting to our final couple of questions. You've walked the path and now you get others through it. So, what's the truth that you wish someone would have told you at your heaviest that would have saved you years of suffering?
I think it's a set of truths. The biggest thing is that just because the label says healthy doesn't mean it's healthy. This is a huge truth. We go to the grocery store, they have a healthy food aisle. We go to a healthier store like a Whole Foods or something. Majority of the food in there is not healthy for you. It really isn't. It's super processed, over marketed stuff. I've seen labels on water, zero carb, no fat, all kinds of things that don't, water should be water. And then they go to the water goes to the other extreme. They tell you this is super optimized water because we put the pH in it to 9.5. We did the alkalinity thing, etc. Still, that the alkalinity of water, your stomach acid will turn 10 gallons of water acid in minutes, actually seconds. So the alkalinity of the water don't matter. The fact that they made it alkaline, though, it does make it more absorbable. But they put a whole lot of marketing into it to get you to buy it when you could actually just squeeze a piece of lemon in there, give an acid pH shock to that water, make that water 10x more absorbable, and make it just as effective as the expensive alkaline water. That's just a marketing hype. Knowing the marketing hype that's out there for diet programs, for diet foods, for low fat, low sugar, all of these things are all designed to draw you in and get you to eat something that's probably not healthy for you. Because think of the things that don't have labels. That's the produce section at the grocery store. It's an apple, it's an orange, it's an onion, it's garlic, it's carrots, it's potatoes, it's squash, it's zucchini, it's whatever it is, right? Now, some of those choices are better than others, like potatoes are high starch. However, the peel of a potato is full of good nutrition and potassium. Throw the middle away and eat the outside, maybe. Instead of doing the opposite, peel them and then eat only the inside. I don't recommend potatoes. However, as a treat, you're having your steak with your anniversary dinner with your husband or wife, have the damn baked potato. It's in the program. It's easy. However, really good food has very little labels. If you're buying it, let's say you're buying organic vegetables out of the frozen foods department, it says frozen broccoli. Nothing else in that bag, right? I don't love this plastic in a plastic bag. However, I also know the vegetables were frozen before they went in the bag and they're absorbing plastic from the bag. So there are some exceptions to the rules, but I wouldn't want to have cooked broccoli that was poured hot into a plastic dough tub, like broccoli soup, let's say. I wouldn't want that because I don't want the microlyzed plastics in my body disrupting my hormones. However, back to the labeling. You're on some place where you just don't have an option. You got to buy canned food. Let's just say, go to the section and buy the one that has a very simple ingredients list. It's a can of tomatoes. It's a can of green beans, or it's a can of whatever vegetable. Can of tuna, only tuna in it, not a bunch of preservatives and other stuff that's in there to enhance flavors. Now, granted, some of the things I just listed are usually labeled just that, maybe some salt, maybe some water. However, you'll buy pasta sauce. Some of them have 4 or 5 ingredients: tomatoes, the herbs, some salt, etc. Others have a 30 ingredient label list. It's labeled organic, but if you start looking at it, there's a whole bunch of stuff in there you don't even know what it is. If a third grader can't tell you about that ingredient, probably not so good for you. So, labeling truth is a fundamental thing I wish I knew more about when I started. So one of the things I work hard for people to understand that just because it says healthy doesn't mean it's healthy. And just because it's labeled organic doesn't mean it's healthy.
Absolutely.
That would be huge. And then knowing that the nutrition industry is full of, not their fault, but they don't have the education to know the full functional part of how the body fully works. Knowing that some of the stuff the quote truisms of the nutrition and gym industry aren't 100% true, especially they're different, they're half true. Move more, eat less works fine to take 10 or 15 pounds off, maybe even 20 in a month, maybe 2 months at max. Absolutely detrimental to an obese person. So knowing those truths, that would go right up there with the labeling stuff.
Amazing. And final question is, how can people connect with you? And can you touch on a little bit about your program and what it is that you walk people through?
Okay, so the easy way to find me, and we'll go over this again at the end, is you can go to Billy Joe Arthur on Facebook. That's my personal page. It's where I post the most stuff. And I'm the guy with the top hat on. Not always black. Sometimes it's white. Sometimes it's brown. I have different ones. I have like 7 or 8 of them. And I also am available through, you can go to www.bookbillyjoe.com. So www.bookbillyjoe.com. And then you can book a free Zoom session with me. When you answer the questions, please type in a little bit about seeing me on Anita's podcast. I'll make sure I 100% am there for you. And I know the frame of what we're talking about, etc. Answer all the questions. I also have a free Facebook group called 100 Pound Fat Loss Forum, which if you go to my main page, it's in the bio. You can actually click on it and it'll take you right there. When you answer the questions, again, I mentioned Anita and her podcast. You'll get instant approval. You can be in that. It's free. It's free forever. And then for people who would love to explore their possibilities and their options, I would love to just book a Zoom with you. You reach out to me via direct message via my Facebook or even Billy Joe Arthur or Billy Joe at billyjoearthur.com. That's my full email, billyjoe@billyjoearthur.com. And mention Anita and her podcast or one or the other so that I know you're a legit lead, not just somebody spamming me. And I will make sure I make time for you. I would love to invite you in and help you explore your options, see if it's a fit for you. Because it's not a fit for everybody, but for the right people, it's a great fit. And I have a pilot right now I'm launching. I have 3 seats for sure left. I might go a little over that if I get the right number of people that are a good fit. That that's a lifetime membership. You're not buying into a monthly thing or something you're going to have another fee for later. It's 100% lifetime because I'm a learning gym rat, or not gym rat, a learning rat, a smart rat. That's the word I wanted to use, not gym rat. As a smart rat, I continuously read new books every month or two. I read a new book and I bring the knowledge to my people so that they learn more. As I uncover new truths, I bring that forward. And I want to have a place for everybody to learn forever. And it also turns into a very intimate support group. I have a group of 3 ladies who get together and they cackle about lady stuff. There are things that I know if I really get myself centered, I can have a grounded conversation with you about things like menopause or that time of the month, that kind of issues, and how what we teach can actually help with that hormonally. But I'm not a woman, so I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you that I know what it feels like. That's a bullshit thing for me to ever say. To say that I have clients that have reported this is the truth. And I would love to give you the truth because you deserve the truth. And that's my final thing. You deserve the truth. And that's what I'm here to convey and bring forward is that what I've curated tens of thousands, or not tens of thousands, 10,000 plus, maybe close to 15,000 hours of study to find out some things aren't true, not really true. They're true, partly true, or they're not even true at all. And I wish I had had the truth up front. So I'm here to convey the truth so that people can have lasting results, so they can build longevity and have it be enjoyable longevity, have vibrant health, have that starting up front with even things as simple as sleeping better, feeling better, and then eventually looking better. And then that all stacks into the identity of I'm a healthy man or woman, or whatever other thing you want to say in there for your label. I am healthy. Let's just cut it short. I am healthy. At that point, you get to be healthy.
Well, Billy, I'm so in awe of this conversation. I'm sure that our audience got a massive amount of value just between the identity shifts and all the little tidbits you included between how really to manage and not only manage but sustain a weight loss. And I'm just wanting to commend you for the work you're doing. I think it's so important, especially in today's mismatched world where there's a lot of food noise. And I'm so honored that you actually took the time out of your day to come and serve on this level. So I just want to
Absolutely
thank
my
you
honor.
again.
It's my honor to be here. I'm out to produce a movement. I know this movement's going to go way beyond anything I personally do. I'm going to educate somebody somewhere along the line, or that somebody's going to come in and join my program with, under the guise they need to lose some weight, who's actually a bigwig. Maybe they even use a false name. I don't care. They're going to take what I've taught, make a spin up of it that's even bigger, better, and faster, and take it to the world. There'll be the, for lack of a name, Gene Simmons level guy at some point. Or I might get lucky. Maybe Tony Robbins invites me to the stage and I go superpower. Who knows? I'm open to it all. My goal, though, is to create a tidal wave of nutritional information that changes the diet industry forever, that takes the
Amazing.
profit mongering out of it and gets the truth out to the people because the people deserve the truth. Because the truth is, all of this isn't just about weight loss, it's about vibrant health. So we have less cause to call the doctor. One of the free things I give all my people is a protocol to boost your immune system. I have another list of 333 names for sugar. It's actually like 340 some names long, and how to avoid the hidden sugars and things. I bring all this truth, like labeling truth. Ketchup, if you made it yourself, would have tomatoes in it, a little bit of some kind of sweetener, and some spices and some salt. Go to the grocery store and pick up ketchup. The first thing on the label is tomatoes, but if you read the whole label, It's got three, sometimes four kinds of sugar in it. It's got sugar, corn syrup, invert syrup, and then another one maybe. Why do they have three kinds of sugar in there? Not because it needs three kinds of sugar. It's because they're putting those ingredients in there by weight. That's the labeling law. The sugar is actually more than the ketchup than the tomato in a ketchup, in a commercial ketchup. There's more sugar in there than there are tomatoes. But they break it into three different kinds of sugar so they can hide it. Little things like that matter. I mean, I could go down this rabbit hole deeper and deeper and deeper. The truth is, we deserve the truth and not the hype. We deserve to know how to take care of our body so that we don't have to be booking time with the doctor all the time. Yes, it's important to get a checkup. It's important to know your baseline numbers. It's important to maybe get a, for us men, we hate the thought of it, but a colonoscopy, that kind of stuff. For you girls, maybe a mammogram. It's appropriate. Maybe not as often as they say, depending on your parameters and your history. Listen to your doctors. There are some wisdom in that. But just the same, when you know how to take care of your body, you're mitigating some of that. Some of the processes I teach bring your body into autophagy every day, which means it's taking out the dead, dying, defunct, decaying cells, which would include abnormal cells. And we know what that means. We can't say it because of a health law. I can't say I'm fixing anything. However, if your body's being programmed to starve abnormal cells and take them out at the same time, they stand little or less chance. That's all health. And we deserve to know the truth about health so that we can live vibrantly healthy, not at the mercy of marketing and the pharmaceutical and other industries that benefit from our ill health.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much for the words of wisdom and sharing what you know. I'm going to make sure all your links are down below in the show notes so that
And
people can connect with you.
in the next week or so, I hope to have a web page up, www.billyjoearthur.com. Super simple, same as part of my email. And by the way, you have a book just over your shoulder there, that Life
Mhm.
Force book.
Mhm.
For anybody who's looking for a resource, that's one incredible resource. It's not 100% all you need to know. However, it's a great start.
I mean, it's Tony Robbins, so I feel like anything backed by him is pretty,
Pretty much.
pretty incredible.
He has some people that have duped him in the past, and there'll be people who dupe him in the future. He's fallible. He's a human being. However, his heart is behind it, and that's what really counts. The same as
Absolutely.
my heart's behind this movement. We know the
Absolutely.
truth so that we can live vibrantly healthy.
Well, again, thank you so much for dropping your wisdom and just all the knowledge and the insights between identity and weight loss. It's been incredible. I'm sure that the listeners are immensely grateful for the knowledge that you have. I will make sure all the information to find Billy is down below. And until next time, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Subscribe at the end of the video, and I will be back on Tuesday.
Double click the bell so you get all her notifications too.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It was an honor to be here, an honor to serve you and your ladies and any men who are watching. It's very similar for you too. What helps your hormones helps everybody's hormones despite our gender differences.
Absolutely.
And that means for better health.
Thank you.